Hello, everyone. So I hope that you can get your tea. I have a little bit of orange juice left. So today I wanted to tell you about the Ayn Rand books that I have and that I am reading over fall break, November fall break. It used to be Thanksgiving break here in America, but they took away our October fall break and then rebranded Thanksgiving. So it's not a long break. It's Wednesday now that I'm recording, so the day before Thanksgiving. And yeah, but I'm going to try to read as much Ayn Rand as I can because I'm giving a talk on her on the Monday that I get back with another colleague. So I'm going to start with Anthem, which I would recommend to everyone, especially if you like 1984, because it's got that kind of a vibe. Basically, this is a dystopia in the future, and it's less than 100 pages. You could read it in a couple of hours, honestly. I read it in a day. It's okay, so this dystopia in the future where the word I, the personal pronoun I, has been lost, and everyone refers to them in the third person plural. So, or the royal we, I guess you could say. And it is, in terms of Rand's dystopia, a time of collectivism. But this is a time of collectivism of censorship and force and all of these different rules that sort of limit knowledge and limit power and and also choice and agency. You can't decide who it's kind of like, I guess, taking Plato's Republic and twisting it to show how like terrifying it is. Because in Plato's Republic, there's this whole part about how parents shouldn't know who their children are. We want the community to raise the children, and we want everyone to kind of see each other as, everyone that's older is my parent or my grandparent, and then everyone around me is my brothers and sisters. And and to if there's like kids, and you're a grown-up, you take care of the kids because you feel like parental toward them. And there's also like some kind of weird breeding going on, or like the choosing of future leaders. And it's all kind of like, and Plato did have censorship as well. He only wanted literature that would inspire certain virtues. And Rand, I feel like, plays off of this. Rand loves Aristotle. So I feel like she's not going to love the benevolent dictatorship because she doesn't like dictatorships. Who does, unless they're Plato's, I guess. No, not even then. So basically the main character is called, I think it's Equality 7, 25, 21. It says, our name is Equality 7, 25, 21, as it is written on the iron bracelet, which all men wear on their left wrists with their names on it. We are, so he's talking about himself, 21 years old. We are 6 feet tall. And this is a burden, for there are not many men who are 6 feet tall. So, and then it says, we are born with a curse. It has always driven us to thoughts which are forbidden. So you basically have to go to you're basically a foster kid, and you go to, at first, the home of infants, and everything's like capitalized, kind of like it is in 1984, where we lived till we were 5 years old, together with all the children of the city with a capital C. And then you're sent to the home of the students for 10 years of learning. And then you appear toward, until your 15th year. And then you appear toward a line of judges who tell you to be a street sweeper, or maybe you can go to the House of Scholars. And the House of Scholars, those are the only people that get to read books, I'm pretty sure. And even their work is kind of censored. So you are chosen, and it seems like if you are kind of a rebellious nature, then you are going to be given a very like reductive menial task, so you don't think. And so thought is basically limited, language is limited, and so basically, like I wrote Plato's dystopia right here. So basically, there's also this loss of industry and loss of scientific knowledge about how things work. There's no electricity. Everyone lives very commutally. And it's just, and you're also not supposed to fall in love. You have like one time a year where your partner is chosen for you. And I guess just all in the purpose of bearing children, bearing future workers. You all eat in a cafeteria. And so this main character, Equality, and everyone has names like that, has a couple of people, like two people that he works with, and he eventually like sees a girl that he likes, and they like do the forbidden thing, like make contact and touch each other's hands and things like that, because you're not supposed to feel your own independent feelings, etc. I think all because of the control of, the people in power want to keep the masses subservient. So that's what collectivism, that's the only thing collectivism could possibly be for Rand, is just control and the unlimited use of force, physical force and physical violence. So the Equality with one of his friends, they are walking around. There's this forest that you're not supposed to go into because I think like it hasn't been tamed. Like everything from our time, all of the factories, etc., technology has been kind of like destroyed. So you have this, I guess, kind of innocent time where there's no knowledge there, so you can't go your own way. So he and his friend go to this forest. Oh, spoilers. Okay, so into this forest, and I should have said that in the beginning. And they find this tunnel, and they go inside it, and it's like their private time. They somehow, I think, like steal some paper and writing utensils, and then they eventually like steal other things and like discover electricity. And it's like spending 3 hours underneath the earth where they can finally be free. And then they're so excited that they discovered electricity. They didn't know what it was or what it's called, but they're going to bring it to the Council of Scholars to say, hey, look at what we have. And of course, they're like, oh, shit, like knowledge. And so they're banished to the forest because they are no longer fit to be a part of collective society. But this is actually a good thing. Usually people are supposed to die in the forest because they don't know how to take care of themselves. They get eaten by wild animals, etc. But they find, I actually don't know if the best friend goes to. I think at this point, for some reason, it's just the main character. But he walks and he finds this, maybe not, I don't know. He and maybe another person finds this old house, and they're like, wow, this house is so big, but there's only 2 beds. Why would someone build a house just for 12 people and only have 2 beds? And, they're confused. So his little girlfriend, who is called, what is she called? I think she's called like Golden Girl or something. That's probably wrong. Golden something, the Golden One. And they give each other names too, because they're like, these aren't going to be our names. We're not Golden One and Equality. We are, they give, it's actually, it doesn't look like it's less than 100 pages, but most of this is a facsimile of her revision for, I think, American audiences. I wrote it down. I think they call each other Prometheus and Gaia. Yeah, that is it. I think I just remembered. Confirmed my own thought. And so anyway, so she just follows him, I guess. And then she's like, surprise, I caught up with you. And they decide to live in this house and claim it as their private property, because Rand feels that private property is a really great thing. Everything should be private, and therefore there would be no war. So anyway, it's another book, but yeah, so there's, in this house, there is like a bookcase with lots of different books, and this is where Equality, or Prometheus, as he's now calling himself, he reads the word I. And so they're able to say, I love you. And it is just really wonderful. And it's also kind of like thus spoke Zarathustra, because he sees himself as someone who is going to be self-sustaining and enjoy the time, but also then, like, because there's always ambition, right? Because Rand's heroic main character is a misunderstood, unappreciated, brilliant, ambitious genius who follows their own path to create something wonderful that ends up contributing to society. So he wants to build a town and a village, and he's going to go back and get all his friends and get all the people that are like-minded. So I think you can still read this book and enjoy it, even though I told you, because it's interesting. Like 1984, it's interesting to hear the names of things and like just the creepy little ways that society has been changed and altered for the abuse of power. I would definitely recommend this book, because all of her other books are over 1,000 pages, or about 1,000 pages. So, well, okay, I'll start with Fountainhead because she wrote this before Atlas Shrugged, but I'm reading Fountainhead. I think it's a weird sized book. Like, compare the sizes of these books. I think they're about the same number of pages, but I don't know. I'm reading them simultaneously because I don't think I will finish. I want to know what's in, to some extent, both of these books, but I don't have time in like whatever the 4 days, 2 days of fall break and then 2 days of the weekend that I have. How did I start that sentence? I don't have time to finish any book, much less 2 books, but whatever. That's what I'm doing. So Fountainhead is about this 22-year-old architect, Howard Rourke, I think. And yes, and he is, you can tell that Rand like wrote herself into this character in a sense. He's the type of person that he's always called, all of her heroes, or well, both of her heroes, I guess, in the 2 books I'm reading, are kind of the same. They're the unappreciated genius that just wants to create beautiful things, where everyone else is kind of greedy and actually selfish and manipulative and pathetic, and they just want to have unearned acclamations and, is that a word? Acclamations? Yeah. And they just treat each other really horrible. And I don't know, her characters, I don't want to call them 2-dimensional, but there's a clear divide between the various positions you can take as a person. And she wants everyone. I mean, Rand really focuses on the individual. She says that hers is not a humanistic ethics necessarily. She's not worshiping humanity. She is worshiping the cream of the crop of individuals, of society. And she feels that, we'll get into the other book that I'm reading, a capitalist society in particular is one where people can be free to follow their own reasoning as much as they are able to. And she says that, you can make bad decisions in your life. That's what capitalism allows you. That's what a political and economic system that promotes freedom allows you. You can buy, I don't know, let me think about myself, lots of tarot cards, ukuleles, but you're gonna, I guess I'm going to realize that, yeah, I'm going to face the consequences. There you go. That's what I'm going to say, of my bad, irrational decisions. If I were rational, I would be investing and working to be a millionaire or a billionaire. I would be smart enough to do that, or focus my time, etc. She does not want anyone to be self-sacrificing, and you can tell that aside from, or maybe tangentially from, these characters that are controlling and just selfish, pathetic people, there's also like people pleasers who, for instance, in this book, there's the foil of Howard Rourke, who is this amazing architect that gets, oh, I didn't even finish the setting or the plot. He gets expelled from his architectural school. I guess maybe he's like in a, I don't know, maybe it's just like he's getting his bachelor's or something. And well, I mean, oops, what is it? It doesn't matter, whatever. He gets, everyone's graduating but him, because he got expelled the last year. And he rents a room in this, I guess, like, I don't know what you would call it. It's just like a house, and this woman rents out the rooms to basically college students, and she has a son who is a college student as well, who did not get expelled because he is basically like an obedient person who is also a sponge. Everyone likes this guy. His name is Peter Keating. And no one likes Howard Rourke because they think that he is cold and unfeeling and inhuman, and he just wants to, I don't know, be rebellious instead of contribute nicely to society. But Peter Keating is the opposite. He's like a good son, even though you can tell that he really like doesn't like his mother, because his mother is overbearing and just not that smart. But he still, like, you know, he's kind of a yes man, or just he gets scummier like really quickly, like as it goes along. Like first I just felt bad for him, because I'm like, oh, he hasn't, well, Rand would say he has no self-esteem, he has no pride, he has no self-worth. And for Rand, self-worth comes from doing something, like being active. But he has just kind of mimicked and done his homework well, but he's not really a person that can go out on his own and create. And so we see that when, well, Peter Keating is always asking Howard Rourke for advice, which Howard Rourke, even though he's called selfish and cold and inhuman, Rand shows that these are the type of characters, these brilliant, you know, some are successful, some are not yet successful on the page that I am on, I guess. But they're always helping someone because they love what they're doing. They want other people to be happy. They seem like just really misunderstood, pure souls. And you get the idea that Rand was probably told that she was selfish and cold and unfeeling and, you know, all these things, but she felt that she had something really special within her. And so she created a book to stick it to everybody and show how horrible and pathetic everyone except, you know, brilliant few people. She has, oh goodness, she has a, what is the article I just read in this book? So this is Ayn Rand, Capitalism, the Unknown Ideal. And she says that capitalism is actually the only moral economic system that you can have. The title of it is America's Persecuted Minority, Big Business. If a small group of men were always regarded as guilty in any clash with any other group, regardless of the issues or circumstances involved, would you call it persecution? If this group were always made to pay for the sins, errors, or failures of any other group, would you call that persecution? If this group had to live under a silent reign of terror, under special laws from which all other people were immune, laws which the accused could not grasp or define in advance, and which the accuser could interpret in any way he pleased, would you not call that persecution? And she says, she keeps going, and then eventually, if your answer is yes, then ask yourself what sort of monstrous injustice you are condoning, supporting, or perpetrating. That group is American businessmen. I don't know. I'm not saying she doesn't have a point. For some people, or I guess her point is you can't just use a certain group as a scapegoat. Not all of them will be like exploiting people and necessarily bad, but to have a whole, I don't know, to have a whole article and say that that is the persecuted minority, it's bold. I don't know. I mean, if I were a billionaire business person, like I would feel very justified, I think. Anyway, back to this book. I am on chapter 6. So basically, Peter Keating, because he does what everyone says and he makes people feel good about themselves, he gets to graduate and go immediately to this very famous architectural firm. But it's found out that the person whose name is like on the building, he doesn't do anything. He just kind of rubs elbows with rich people. And I mean, I guess he does do something. He finds clients, like rich clients for his company, but he has people under him that actually draft the sketches of the buildings, etc. And Peter Keating becomes like his favorite person but they don't do any work. And that's Rand's point. I think that they are just a part of the category of humans who receive lots of praise for not doing anything, while the poor geniuses of the world are scapegoated and hated because basically everyone's jealous of them. And yeah, so I think it's interesting. Obviously, I'm on page 77 and it's 694 pages. But I'm enjoying it to some extent. I definitely don't think Rand is a bad writer, but she's just a bit on the nose. It's just kind of like reading one of those books that you feel like the person who wrote this because they're really hurt, because they're misunderstood, and they feel heroic and they want everyone to know. And so she kind of paints people in just kind of extreme ways. I mean, I guess it's just not super believable that you'd have like this, pure Mother Teresa type person who's just hated, and people say horrible things and slight these people, but I don't know. It just seems too like on the nose. I just want to give Ayn Rand like a hug and like, oh, you were loved. Like lots of people like you. I don't know. It makes me feel a certain way. So yeah. But I'm continuing to read that. I think that I read a chapter this morning, and I think I'm just going to continue. I'll go back to it actually, but then I started reading a little bit of Atlas Shrugged. So Atlas Shrugged, I feel like, is the big one. That's the question, who is John Galt? And on page 75, I still don't know exactly, but I mean, I guess I can guess. So this one is about, I think the main character is the sister of someone who is incompetent, but yet is the leader because he's a man and he, I don't know, schmoozes, I guess. And that's the other thing. Her heroic unappreciated heroes who are brilliant They don't understand how to manipulate people or schmooze in a way to make people like them. So they have, Rand would say, integrity, because they are who they are, regardless of what people think. Because they have a mission, they have a goal. Like Howard Rourke loves architecture. All Peter Keating really ends up wanting to do is avoid work. And so there are people who are childish and pathetic who avoid work, and there are people who don't sleep and don't eat and spend years and maybe decades in poverty because they know that they have something that they are creating. And so these are the people that have, given us all of our conveniences and everything that there is. And she goes to great lengths to show how everyone else is actually selfish and just, I don't know, should be judged. The hero shouldn't be judged. The hero is a good person. Just misunderstood. Okay, so anyway, so I don't know. Honestly, I don't feel like the character of the sister who is named Dagny Taggart, I don't think I've read enough to really feel that she's a main character, but I know she is because she's got the qualifications, or I think she is it in the first 74 pages, because she's the only character. Or is she? No, there's someone else. Oh, well, okay, there's another character too. I forgot about him. What is his name? Maybe Dagny's not the main character. She just doesn't seem built up to be this. Okay, no, maybe someone else is. But she has so much potential, and she's the one that makes decisions in the railroad company. So there's this railroad company, and because her brother is incompetent, he's made all of these bad decisions. For instance, and one of the ways that he is irrational is that he cares or pretends to care about the welfare of other people. So he builds a railroad line or transportation line to a place in Mexico where there's this billionaire who has stumbled upon unlimited materials. Like I think copper is what it is. And so, but Dagny understands quickly that it's a waste of time. And so she, decides to pull out, and then her brother's mad, except it turns out that she was right. And the heroes are always right. The heroes who are misunderstood and not given their due, they're not at the place in the world where they should be, because the masses that are irrational can't understand how wonderful they are. So yes, okay, but there's this other person who is, he's called Reardon. That's what his name is. Now I remember, because it's the name of like all of his companies. So there's this other guy who, I don't know what his first name is though. Something Reardon. I don't know. I think that I will have to say that Fountainhead moves a lot quicker. I am just enjoying this more on like a pleasure kind of realm than I am Hank Reardon. I think that's what his name is. Then Atlas Shrugged. Not that I'm not enjoying Atlas Shrugged. It just seems like it's taking a bit longer for the story to kind of happen, which is why I guess I was confused of who the main character is. But Hank Reardon is another sort of person who's called arrogant, but it's just because he's a prodigy and he's just better than everybody else. And Dagny is going to give him a chance because he has finally, after like 10 years of experimenting and researching, etc. He has come up with this material that is cheaper and lighter, but yet stronger and more durable than steel. I think that's what it is. And so he kind of went at a time when also like various, I guess, railroad companies and various industries like of ore and iron, etc., are going into bankruptcy. Hank is the type of person that's like buying them up and like putting them to use, because the saddest thing is when humans can't progress, according to Rand. So Hank is also, maybe there's two main characters. Hank is now a billionaire and his family hates him for that and has like contempt and disregard. Like it shows him coming home from being really excited to, he's accomplished his dream, which is to run the first like order because of Dagny Taggart. Of his material, and he goes home and he doesn't like announce it because he is not arrogant, even though everyone says he is. And his family just treats him like horribly. Like you can't, it's almost not realistic, because it almost, you know what it feels like? It feels like, and I don't know if everyone will understand what I'm saying when I say this, but there was or is maybe a channel called Lifetime, and it has shows that are kind of lower budget, and the stories are not super like complicated or nuanced. Like they'll have Christmas stories, a lot of them are romance stories, a lot of them just kind of move on cliche lines, and there's just clearly like, the damsel in distress, and then the handsome man that saves her, and then the family that's horrible that doesn't understand, or the villain that is like the rich older boss that wants to try to capture the heroine, but something like that. And it just feels kind of icky. It feels a bit cringe. It's like, I don't know, this seems like a car crash that someone is indulging in and can't look away from because of the drama, like something like that. There's something about it. And this is a little bit like that just because of the characters. So I don't really know why Jordan Peterson reads this book every 2 years. I think I saw a YouTube video, a talk where either he said it or someone said it. I don't know. Someone checked me. But I think I remember him saying it. He reads it about every 2 years. I will definitely not read this again. I will finish it, but I just feel as if you don't need 1,000 pages, perhaps, to make the point that she's making. Don't be mean to smart, successful, rich people because they're doing more than you could ever do. So don't be salty. Just be grateful and thankful. So I don't know. Am I not being fair to Rand? I go in and out. I think, when I'm reading her, because I'm also reading some of her philosophy, mostly the Capitalism book and then the Virtue of Selfishness, both books which are really a collection of the journalistic essays that were published in the Objectivist newsletter by Rand and others. So it's not like a book with chapters, although it is. It's more just a collection of different essays that relate. Okay, so I was saying I go back and forth. Like sometimes I'm really thinking that, oh my gosh, am I like a fan of Ayn Rand? Like, because I think she can be very inspiring. She can be especially inspiring to people who do not have, quote unquote, a backbone. People who are people pleasers, who self-sacrifice because they, I don't know, just became that way or something in their childhood. And so if you have trouble saying what you want and saying what you mean and standing up for yourself and doing what you want, even if people are saying bad things about you, like, oh, you're a selfish person, you don't have any feeling, like, why aren't you being nice to us, etc., then I feel like Rand can help you get over that. And so I like that part of her because I am thus that type of person. And so I feel like she is really inspiring in that sense, because it is good to have integrity. Integrity means that you are not contradictory, that you don't say something that you don't mean, or you don't go to a place that you don't really want, or you're not friends with people that you don't want to really be friends with, that you are who you are and you express that, and that's what you are consistently. And she says repeatedly that, you shouldn't sacrifice yourself and you shouldn't sacrifice others. And that's why she feels that selfishness is a virtue, which I have a video that if you're watching this, you probably watched that video, or it was like in the past, so you could have watched it before this. So I won't go into it a lot, but that's why she says that selfishness is a virtue, because everyone being policed to be kind and a good person, she says that that's when horrible things happen in the world. That's when chaos ensues, when everyone is trying to be good because maybe you want to kill to force your version of goodness on others, or you're controlling people, or you're manipulating people. So if you are forced to be something, then you can't really be that naturally. You can't really ever sacrifice in a way that's noble. You can't really ever be kind in a way that is true, because you're only doing it out of fear. You're not doing it out of love. And I feel like there's some truth to that. Like there's some like very helpful advice for a very particular type of person. But I feel overall, and I know I haven't really explained these books, but these are two books that I'm currently reading. You can't really stop there, right? Like you need to be able to, and I don't know if I said this in my last video, but so I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself. But once you get past the people pleasing, once you gain a backbone, once you are true to yourself and have cleared your throat chakra, then there are other stages that you can evolve to, right? That then you don't have to stay in that protective shell. You can move to higher versions of what you were trying to get away from, the compassion and the sacrifice and the connection to others, because you understand how to be with others and not lose a sense of self. Once you gain your sense of self, then it's like time to go back and then try those relationships and have reciprocity, etc. So, and I feel like Ayn Rand feels that her suggestions are like the end. Like once you've reached that stage, you're good. There's nothing beyond that. So I feel as if it's a little, I guess, limited in what you can do. And yeah, and I just don't know if she is super realistic about capitalism, because it's not only what actually contributes to society that gets created and changes our world. Not that, but I think that she is helpful in trying to say that abuses of power and the pursuit of profit needs to be not limited to its attachment with capitalism, but you can have an abuse of power. You can have sort of a striving for profit in people who are not capitalists, who are dictators, who are outside of capitalism. So I think that is interesting. Yeah, I don't know. And she herself was just very successful. Like, I think people who knew her will say that, you know, she just didn't have a lot of self-doubt. She was very confident. And sometimes I think that that is, you know, part of it, that it is, I think, more achievable to be successful the more self-esteem you have and the more confidence you have in yourself. So, you know, if you need that extra, like, you can do it, then maybe read Rand. So I do have, okay, I'll show that one last actually. So I do have 3 other books. This actually might be not just a book of essays, but actually a book. Let's see. Oh no, it is. Okay, this collection, so this is, I thought this would be good to pick up, especially for my talk. Philosophy, Who Needs It? I probably will only get to read a chapter in this because I'm focusing, I think, on Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged, because it's just super fun to read novels. Okay, so and I'm glad when philosophers have novels and they are literary. It's like 41 minutes, okay. Because then I get to, it's just, I don't know, I feel like it's wonderful. I love reading philosophy, obviously, like I'm obsessed with it actually, but there's just something super, it's like fun in a different way to read a creative piece of work, I guess. I don't know. Like, it's so fun intellectually and then also spiritually to read philosophy. But there's something inspiring and creative, I feel like, that is stirred up when I read a novel. So anyway, this collection of essays was the last work planned by Ayn Rand before her death in 1982. So she was 1905 to 1982. In it, she summarizes her view of philosophy and deals with a broad spectrum of topics. According to Rand, the choice we make is not whether to have a philosophy, but which one to have: rational, conscious, and therefore practical, or contradictory, unidentified, and ultimately lethal. So the first essay is the title of this book, Philosophy, Who Needs It? It was an address given to the graduating class of the United States Military Academy at West Point in 1974. I think that it will just be a really great book, honestly. She has a title called Selfishness Without a Self. Wow, okay, some Buddhism right there. She is an atheist. She doesn't hate religion, but as long as it doesn't actually affect how our world is, if it's just like individual mystics doing their thing, she's like, it's fine, it's not harming people. But she really only wants to follow what she can logically work out in her head. Faith and Force, the destroyers of the modern world. Kant versus Sullivan. I don't know who Sullivan is. She has a chapter on censorship, something about education. What can one do? And don't let it go. So I'm not sure when I'm going to start that in the next 2 days, but maybe. I got this book as well, The Romantic Manifesto, which I think is about art. A philosophy of literature. Okay. I think she calls herself a romantic because she idealistically hopes for the future and what people can be. The dictionary definition of manifesto is a public declaration of intentions, opinions, objectives, or motives as one issued by a government, sovereign, or organization. She says, there is no romantic movement today. If there is to be one in the art of the future, this book will have helped it come into being. There's that confidence again. Okay, great. Those who feel that art is outside the province of reason would be well advised to leave this book alone. It is not for them. Those who know that nothing is outside the province of reason will find in this book the base of irrational aesthetics. It is the absence of such a base that has made today's obscenely grotesque degradation of art possible. I don't know, I think it'll be really interesting. The first chapter is the psychoepistemology of art. Art in the sense of life, basic principles of literature, what is romanticism, the aesthetic vacuum of our age, bootleg romanticism. I think I'm really gonna like this book. I might start that today after I read, finish reading the chapter that I'm on in Atlas Shrugged. And then We the Living is her first novel. She kept rewriting her novels, which I think is really interesting. It was first published in 1936. This classic novel has as its theme the struggle of the individual against the state. It portrays the impact of the Russian Revolution on three human beings who demand the right to live their own lives and pursue their own happiness. It tells of a young woman's passionate love held like a fortress against the corrupting evil of a totalitarian state. So it is a story about men and women who have to struggle for existence behind the red banners and slogans. It is a picture of what those slogans do to human beings. I don't know, reading her work is really making me want to read my Hannah Arendt books, The Origins of Totalitarianism, The Human Condition, and so forth. So, and the last book that I have, Correspondence. You know how I love it. But usually I would just, tear into this and be halfway through it by now. But I want to wait because it said in the introduction that a lot of this is discussing her books and her writing. There's not a ton of like personal, it's not written like a diary, is what I've read. And it's about 40% of the correspondence that exists for Rand. But I think there might be one letter to, what is his name? Nathaniel Brandon, I think. And then there's only maybe one letter to her husband. So the really personal letters, I don't think are published yet probably because they have to get permission from people. And a lot of times it seems like people don't want their letters published until like they've passed away because I don't know, and maybe not even then, but that's what Simone de Beauvoir did. That's her letters that she mainly wrote came out in the 90s. So yeah, so I don't know. So I think a lot of this is more on the like philosophical and writer, and she gives people like writing advice, etc. So I don't want spoilers, basically. So who is John Galt? So I guess John Galt is kind of a Nietzschean like Ubermensch, like Zarathustra, who now has become legend, and people use his name in a nonsensical way when you ask who is John Galt when someone asks a question or for information that there just isn't an answer for, and you're just kind of giving up, and it's kind of like a question of hopelessness, like who is John Galt, like like a ridiculous question. But I think that because she Rand in this book a lot of times she will quote from this book. So I guess there are speeches. So I'm excited, but I don't want to know exactly who he is until he shows up, because it's the fun of reading the book, right? I'm reading it for fun as well. So yeah, so I don't know. I mean, if you want to read something just really quick and you want to get a taste of her thoughts, I would read Anthem, because you, like I said, you could read it in 2 hours. And I really loved 1984. And this is kind of like, I think, if various people could be inspired by that book and then write their own sort of dystopia. And that's what I feel like Rand did. I say that, but when was this written? 1938. When is 1984 written? I'm saying like, oh, she copied it, but maybe she wrote her book before. $1949. Oh shit. Oh wow. Did Orwell steal from Rand? Let me look this up. 1984. Because, well, I think I thought that because 1984 is such a literary achievement classic, and this is iconic, but I don't know. Oh, there are people who. It's really strange. So someone on Reddit said, I don't know if Orwell was influenced by Anthem, but you'd be surprised that Rand didn't like 1984. So do we know? I mean, it's just comparable. All right, so hopefully I'm still, okay, yes. So I am kind of stuffed up, if you hadn't noticed. So I'm gonna go use tissues. And thank you so much for listening to my TBR, basically. And I'm sure there will be other videos about her, but let me know what books you've read, what you think about what I said. If you have a different perspective, let's have a conversation in the comments and let me know. And please don't give me spoilers, because I will delete your comments. Okay, thanks everyone. Have happy holidays if you are having a holiday.